Okay, my friends, we are back. Hope everyone had a beautiful Pesach, uplifting, powerful, life-changing, And there's a niggin that I have in my mind that I think I want to begin with. It doesn't have to be so crazy. We don't have to, wake up the neighbors, but I'll share with you. I've been trying to mechazek his bodedus. Rabbi Nachman talks about his bodedus. And this bodedus is that Indian of going into a private space and talking to Hashem. Rabbi Nachman, in the 25th teaching in the second volume of Likutey in Tinyana, Torah 25, he explains about his bodedus being the highest of avodas. And I'm sure there are deep Kabbalistic reasons why that's so, and it's also deep, if it's done in a healthy way, it's deeply therapeutic. And I was, Nachman speaks about doing it every day, and there are different, maybe, Masorah is exactly what it is, but, there's a Masorah of an hour a day. And I've heard elsewhere that it's, doesn't necessarily have to be an hour, just about quality. Either way, we're building up to it and we want to work on it. So I was in his bodedus a couple weeks ago. I have a closet in Orchard Gardens, in the 2 bedrooms. They have this walk-in closet. And it's like, Baruch Hashem, it's filled with mostly Sarah's stuff, clothes and things like that. It was pretty cramped, but I'll squeeze a little chair in there, and hey, and I'm doing this bodedus, and my cousin Hashkamas says that when he was first being mechazik himself in his bodedus, he would spend I think it was the first year or something crazy like that, where he was just screaming because he couldn't get the words out quite yet, and he had so much of his things that he's working on, and I can only talk about it on the recording because he talks about it openly, but he was screaming. So over here by us, we're singing a niggin, and this particular niggin is from Zusha, which I love Zusha, and there are basically 2 parts to the niggin.
Oh.
It's one of I forget the name of the niggin, but it's one of Zusha's nigunim. So the ma'aseh with this niggin for me personally was, it goes like this. I'll do the niggin and then I'll go back into the ma'aseh. It's like la 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 that's the niggin. So I'm in this bodedus, and I'm doing the second part over and over again. La 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 la, over and over again. And there's a moment. This is pretty. This is a vulnerable point for me. There's a moment in the niggin where I stick my hands up in the sky, and my eyes are closed. It's dark, like the closet's dark, obviously. And I almost imagined all the tzaddikim sort of be coming down, holding on to each other, like, from Moshe Rabbeinu all the way down. And you have Rabbi Nachman who's there, and he's sticking out his hands to me, and I'm holding onto his hands. And Rabbi Nassan's there, and Pitzesner, and some of all their hands, But I think B'dafcha thinking about Rabbi Nachman, and he was reaching down, and I was holding his hand. La 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 la. And I was like, tears. coming down my face, imagining holding on to the tzaddik who has such hashpah on so many people. Because I was thinking in this Borlus, I said, how do I know that Rabbi Nachman cares about my avodah? The Nasan, the tzaddikim. You know, we're learning and we're trying to do some Borlus and trying to do some of the eitzas. Rabbi Nachman and the tzaddikim, they have so many chassidim in their court. And then there's us, you know. And then in our loneliness, in our despondency, sometimes we think like, you know, is our avodah noticed? We think that by Hashem too. You know, does Hashem notice my avodah? Does Hashem notice when I was misgaber over a taiva? And why I lost in the taiva, but I was trying in the taiva. I was trying to. Or that it's even a struggle now. I'm in the struggle. That is Hashem paying attention to that. And of course, the answer is if Havada is paying attention to that. But we could feel very lonely in our avodah sometimes. That's why Chabura is so important, and Zichas Chaverim, and being chazik each other, and his borlus, because that's taking our life and it's coloring it within that world of Hashem. The difference between a life of Hashem and a life without Hashem is simply our conscious awareness of the fact that Hashem is guiding things and our capacity to nourish the relationship. But that niggin and that, you know, realizing and thinking and knowing that Rabbi Nachman's hands were there. I was holding on to him, he was holding on to me, and Nas in there. I also love the Piazzesta Rebbe, you know. Whoever tzaddikim you connect, you can imagine this. Try this. Go into your closet and have a niggin that opens you up. You see yourself as part of the Masorah. See yourself as part of this great Masorah from Moshe Rabbeinu all the way down to us in our world, in Olam Hazeh and Zman Hazeh, this time. So maybe we could just open ourselves up with this niggin. La 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 baboy la 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 baboy la 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 What's your name? What is it? Ariel? Ariel? Yeah. Aaron, nice to meet you all.
Hi. Rabbi Tal's Talmidim.
Wow, thanks for coming.
So where are we at?
We're holding an Os Yud. Os Yud in Halachah Alef. Hashkamas HaBoker.
Is it Bechinas Chanukah?
Ze bechinas Levishas Begadim.
Oh,
And before we dive in there, one of the ideas that spoke to me very much over Pesach there's a sefer Biram Techecha from the base medrash of Rav Itzmar Morgenstern, one of the great Mikubalim in Eretz Yisrael. One of the Talmidim has been putting out these Sfarim on different dimensions of Avodas Hashem, Moedim. There's a sefer on Avodah Lamaisa, all emerging from that place, the Baal Shem and Pnimiyas HaTorah, the Zalman, the Rashash, the Rizal. He brings down in a very sort of simple lashon, very deep inyanim. I think the tzaddik is known now, but I don't know his name. So for now, he's still Nister.
not to these people. Not to Richard Meyer.
Oh, I know, yeah, for sure, right, for sure. He knows who he is.
Yep.
I think before those farm were coming out anonymously, but now I think they're like over here. If you look at the skamba from Rav Itzmar, his name is whited out. The in the parak on Shvi Shel Pesach, the 7th day of Pesach, where that avoda, it's bedavcha avoda of katnus. When the Jewish people were at that moment of Shvi Shel Pesach and they're confronting the Yam Suf. So the Mitzrayim were behind them and the Yam Suf was in front of them, and it was not looking great. And what the tzaddik explains is that, and he also has a whole separate parak on katnus, the avoda of katnus.
What's Katniss mean?
Katnus means smallness. Katnus connotes darkness, lack of feeling.
When you're not feeling it.
Exactly, you're not feeling it.
Like that moment when you're inspired is kind of like godless, right?
Right.
When you're like, if that's a gift from Hashem. You didn't earn that feeling. That's what you feel on the Shlosh Regalim, on all the holidays. Hashem give you that feeling of inspiration. But after, you have to earn it, and that's when it's not easy.
It's exactly it. It's, I don't feel it. So Leil Seder is this big or that comes down, and we're tapping into that, and Mokin the Godless, experience of expansivity, and we go into Cholamoid, and it's all sort of converging into this one sort of potent moment of, wow, I am confused. Where's Hashem? I don't understand this at all. This seems terrible. And this is what I try to explain. Where I try to, when I do a nursing group with my patients, I have them breathe. I think we talked about this idea before, breathing into the nose, out their mouth. But the body is dynamic. There's expansivity and then there's retraction. So we don't have a time on the body because it's retracting, right? That's normal. And so too in the emotional world, the emotional space, there is a dance. There are times of mokin the godless and mokin the katnus. Right? It's not this sort of static, stale experience of one type of emotion. We have many different types of emotions. So when you realize that's normal, and that's a part of life, that helps depathologize the moments where we feel mochin the katnus. And to see mochin the katnus as an essential part of the avoda, where a person has the opportunity, and this is what he brings down over here, to say to himself, Hashem, I don't feel you, but I know you're there. I don't feel you. I'm in darkness. I am experiencing bilbul. I'm confused. I don't want to do this right now. But Amunah is not based on your feeling. It's not like contingent upon how you feel in the moment, but rather it's precisely, it's serving Hashem by way of the katnus. It's by utilizing your mind and your heart to say, I don't feel it, but I know you're here.
Just something I saw in Sota today, that what protects you, the mitzvah can protect you in the moment, but the Torah, your knowledge, the wisdom, can protect you in the future. And by protecting you in this sense would be the Amunah, it gives you the knowledge of Hashem, it gives you...
Exactly. There's a particular publication of Likutey Moran. It's 3 volumes from Rav Yeshua Gross. It's like a birur, and then there's a be'iyun on the bottom, or mevuar, where it's like elucidated, and then it's be'iyun on the bottom, where it's fleshing out certain concepts. So it's the first one of Likutey Moran is talking about the idea of being gazing at the chachma in things. Is that looking at the pnimius, at the chiyas that's sort of animating all reality, and that's godliness, etc. Not to live just on the superficial surface, but by way of getting there, you need humility, so to speak. But he says, even if you don't chap, even if you can't chap the chachma in the moment, but you have a munah that it's there. Like I don't feel like I don't see the chachma in this matzav. It doesn't have, it could be, it's like whatever experience that you're encountering in your life, and you're like, I cannot fathom why Hashem is doing this. But then there's that second moment where a person has the opportunity to say, I can't fathom it, but yet I believe that panemius and that chachma and that chiyas is there. And that's the aspect of that, humility. And that's the emunah that we're sort of tapping into. And Rabbi Nachman is famous for saying, of course, that the apex of knowledge is to realize that we don't know.
Only an empty vessel can receive.
Yeah. Exactly. So if I have, and I heard of Rav Yeshua Rubinstein, he has this amazing series of shiurim on Sodas of Baal Shem Tov, which I've been diving into. And he was talking about the Inyan of Emunah. He said he made a very sort of interesting point. He said when you have basically when you have Emunah, you don't have opinions on things so much anymore, because whatever it is, like Moshe Gersh's book, it's all the same to me. It's all the same to you, because every moment is a moment where I can serve Hashem. It's not what I wanted. Okay, now it's like this is the avodah now. It's like when a person is classic for a guy, he wants to learn, but his kid's crying or something. Jeff's never experienced this before. Yeah, so you're like, I wanna learn right now, but it's like the kid needs to be taken care of. You're like, okay, my wife do it, but maybe she can't do it. So you're like, you feel frustrated in the moment because you wanted to do a particular avoda, and Hashem had a different avoda for you. And Rabbi Halachos also I heard him say this too in a very poignant way when he was in Kollel in Queens, and maybe his wife, the guys in the Kollel, sometimes the wives needed them to come home for some reason. They were upset because they missed out on their learning or whatever. And so Rabbi Halachos said to them, why are you learning? You're learning because you want to come close to Hashem. Like the tachlis of the learning is a relationship with Hashem. So if that's the case, then now Hashem is asking you to work on something else in the relationship. So the level of equanimity and peace and joy should be, the same, because now this is just the new avodah, but we have our opinions on the way we think things ought to be. We get frustrated when they're not that. And so the avodah is to actually sort of excavate within ourselves, to make space for the fact that it's Hashem's world, and I'm a key player in the game, so to speak. But even if I can't fathom why, I give myself permission to go, Hashem, I believe in the way, even though I don't understand. And there's a certain equanimity, there's a certain peace of mind, there's a certain yeshiva das that comes from being able to practice that and flex that. And Rabbi Dr. Cohen is always in his shiurim. He brings up this. He warns the kasha. It's easier said than done. It's like yes. I bring this up in the patients too. Anything is easier said than done in the world of work. Like it's easier to talk about exercise and do exercise. It's easier to talk about diet and than to do the diet. Okay, that's not a chiddush. but it's a practice. It's a spiritual practice, and Baruch Hashem doesn't short us any opportunities to work on this. But this was the idea that really spoke to me, this Shvi Shel Pesach, and to serve Hashem by way of the kindness, And I believe, Rabbi Nachman is also, he's offering us, Rabbi Nachman is offering us, and Rabbi Nassim is explaining deeply for us in this halacha, how to get out of the kindness, I think, ultimately. When a person finds themselves in kindness, and now they want to get out. Okay. Likutey Tovos, and all the various expressions of that idea. So now we'll go back in, and we talked about how this sort of concept of Likutey Tovos is manifested in the different aspects of tefillah. And now we're going to see the idea as expressed through putting on our clothes. So we're holding an Os Yud. Rabbi Nassim is now going to show how waking up from sleep to arouse the good points from spiritual slumber relates to another one of the morning activities, which is getting dressed. And when we get dressed, Jewish law, Halachah requires that we give priority to the right side. Well, we probably intuitively understand why, but we'll see it al pi pnimius. Zeh b'chinas levishas begodim. This rousing and refining of the good points also relates to the laws of getting dressed each morning. One should initially hold the garment on his right side and begin dressing, and then afterwards he passes the garment to his left side to clothe himself. This is accordance with the Kabbalistic principle that one should always empower the right or the left, which we also see this in the Indian of the shoes.
So it's like when you pick up the
right.
cup of the right and you pour it on the left.
Nice. Yes, we're seeing like in many different ways, like when you're putting on your shoe. This is like the kasha from people who are not, like either secular Jews. It's like, oh, it's so much minutiae, even putting on your shoes has to be, done al pi halacha. But the idea that really speaks to me on this, besides the fact that we're learning a deep idea, is that it's almost like this is the whole tachlis of creation, is because I think I've heard from Reb Joy Rosenfeld, who's been a very important mashpia for me in the world of my Judaism, but he's often quoting Rabbi Ezriel Garona. One of the key links in the chain of the Masorah of Kabbalah. I believe it's from him, and I think he quotes, Rav Itchemeyer brings him down as sort of a key, I hope I'm saying this right, because it's going on the tape, but Rabbi Ezriel Garona, where he talks about the idea of the way that the infinite is truly infinite is by having the capacity to also manifest in the infinitude. So the only way that Hashem could be truly infinite is if he has the capacity to express himself in the finite world. So that's like everything we experience. So it's like, yes, but dafka in all the minutia of our day-to-day, Hashem's light even extends to that place. And that's the beauty of Yiddishkeit. It's like, Hashem talks about how we should, conduct ourselves in the restroom. It's like, yes, even the light of godliness goes over there. There's no space of existence for a human being that is not devoid of light of godliness. And that becomes the elevation that becomes the upgrade of the consciousness. It's like all about, like my Rebbe, Rav Gurzy. That was an awesome shir, right?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
That was awesome. Rav Gurzy, if you're listening to this, that was awesome. But he is I've often heard him share the idea of upgrading the quality of one's consciousness. So the world of Jewish law, of Halachah, is giving us the opportunity that in all realms of existence, I can have an upgrade in my consciousness. So anyway, so here we go. Ki ikur hatuli b'chinas yamin. For the fundamental idea here is that every beginning is dependent on the right, the side of chesed. Ta'hinu al yedei shemata klapi chesed amotzi. In other words, as a result of his inclining toward chesed, and finding in himself some good points. The person thereby wakes himself from spiritual slumber. This is an idea, that we're familiar with at this point. The idea is nasin lavushim, but this is the new expression of the idea. The idea is nasin lavushin lahalbish es nishmaso shaisa haruma ad akshav, and through this garments are made to clothe his soul, which until now has been naked. Because as long as the good points have yet to be revealed during the time he was still in a state of spiritual slumber, it's as if he was naked. We don't want to be naked. We want to clothe ourselves in beautiful garments. I was speaking to someone recently. He was messaging me, and he's going through a difficult kufa in building his business. It's not going the way that he would like, and he called himself. He messaged me. He said, "I'm a big fat loser." This is a very chashuv person, very, very special person, deep and thoughtful and sensitive, and a man of service. And Hashem has put different challenges in his life, and he's had to be a balachrayas and a tremendous person. And I said to him, I said, first of all, I said, it's us or Gomer for you to talk about yourself like that. And I said, Rabbeinu Zal says, right? Us to talk about ourselves like this. Yeah, he was, and he is, familiar with Rabbi Nachman. I think he loves Rabbi Nachman. And he was masking that way. It was us or Gomer. We do this all the time with ourselves. Making mistakes, and we beat ourselves up, and we don't make any room for humanity. And Rabbi Kalmus I saw recently in this Atik Yomin chat, which is the chat that he uses to give. He has almost like a virtual chabura. It's remarkable the way the guys speak about each other and machazik each other, really special. So they're talking about this Indian right now, Likutey Tovas, and he said even B'dafcha, I think when he does something like or like he's saying, like even when he makes a big mistake, let's say, whatever that means for someone like Rabbi Kalmus, but he forces himself to begin with finding the good inside of him. He forces himself, even if every inclination inside of him is going to say that I want to, I want to beat up on myself. But he forces himself on it. It's very hard to do this, by the way. This is real avoda, what we're talking about, when a person feels like they made a mistake and the proclivity is to, beat you with a sledgehammer or something, to be able to stop yourself and say, no. There'll be a time to assess myself, but right now, my vote is to find the good, because then I'm naked, and if I'm naked, I'm vulnerable, and I have to strengthen myself. And now we're going to see how this is. So we'll have kavanah now when we actually say the brachos. This is the significance of the blessing who clothes the naked that we recite in Shachros as brought in the Kabbalistic teachings. Nekudos, Tovos, and Mizgalin, Shem Mechin Yisrael, Asher B'cha, Isba'er, Ki, Behem, Mispar Shem Yisbarach, V'yach Kanal. For as explained previously through the good points being revealed, which are alluded to in the verse, Yisrael in you et Pa'er, as Hashem takes pride in the good points, as it were. Garments are thereby made. He has Bigdei Pa'er, Bigdei Kavod. This is the concept of raiments of garments of pe'er, of splendor, garments of glory for the soul. And this clothing of splendor and glory for us, as well as the tzitzis and the tefillin, which are the clothing of the soul. The hymn is kihu kesusa levada hu simlaso laoro. As is alluded to in the verse, this alone is his covering, the garment for his skin. That's tzitzis tefillin. Now, although this verse refers to a garment taken as security for a loan, which must be returned each evening to its owner, the Zohar teaches on a deeper level this is allusion to tzitzis and tefillin. These spiritual garments are worn by the Jewish people, made from the good points that are refined during the spiritual night, in darkness, as in the manner described above. This farm, as we can now understand in the works of the Svarim Kedoshim. it follows that the primary aspect of garments, the concept of the soul's raiments of splendor, which indicate the inclusion of all colors. And over there, in the bottom, there's a footnote that explains that the Jewish people contributed their good points for the construction of the Mishkan, and each point has its own unique color, and together they form a complete spectrum of colors. Na'asim b'chinas nekudas tovas mizbarim is created from the good points that we refined. Shehem b'chinas kalus gavanim. The good points signify the inclusion of all the colors as mentioned above. V'alkein tzrichim lahagber yamim b'shas levisha. This is why it is necessary to empower the right side when dressing. He called zeh dimshach b'chinas yamim adei shemata klapi chesed. For all clothing of the soul is derived from the concept of the right by one's inclining to the right towards chesed. And by doing this, one finds his good points. And consequently, garments are made. It's like just like practically speaking. Everyone has an energy. I remember there's someone I used to work with at work. It's a person that was just very negative. There was a coarseness of the mouth, and the person didn't have an ayin tov towards anything. I don't say anything. That's maybe just a tendency towards not seeing the good and complaining about it. So she had a certain lavush that she carried around in terms of her energy. So it's like, what type of lavush do we want? What type of coat do we want to wear, so to speak? Like Rabbi Lin from Machan Yaakov was one of the most powerful questions. So we're so used to looking at life from inside out, and this question makes you think about life from outside in. And he says like this: you have to figure out what it's like to be around you. You have to figure out what it's like to be around you. When Aaron London walks into a room, what happens? People leave. No kidding. But like, what happens? Oh gosh, we're here. He's going to say some terrible jokes again. Get me out of here. But it's like building awareness. Are people walking on eggshells around me? Are people, do the people feel comfortable? People feel safe? So when a person is ma'ayin the tov in themselves, in others, that creates like an atmosphere around you, an energetic force field of like good stuff, positive energy. That's like, so to speak, the garment that you're wearing. You're like shining. All your good points that you are percolating on. That stuff is felt by people. It's not a tangible thing. Like, yes, you can speak it out. You can be medaber with someone. You can say, talk about their good points or something like that, and that makes them feel a certain way. But just when you're a person that does this avoda, being mavakesh the good, then energetically you just have this positivity around you. And that's intoxicating in a very good way for people. It's very powerful, very healing. Any questions on that? Is that clear? Relatively.
What about if you need to talk about something bad?
Yeah, so I think there's a difference between. There's a very big difference between just being a person who's like pointing fingers all over the place and looking at where everything's wrong versus therapeutically a person needs to process something. That's not negative, I don't think.
When do you need to tell that something bad? I guess maybe to protect someone, right?
I meant more of like I need help with something.
To blow off steam.
But something, okay, not like lashon hara.
Or like I'm struggling, and I need
Right,
to talk about it.
Yeah, that's processing. That's therapeutic in a healthy, when it's done in a healthy way. There's also the toxic way of doing that, which is But Jeff, you had something?
No, please.
Yeah, there's always it's like Shlomo Melech. There's a time and place for everything. There's a time and place to process, and even if you're like. Right, the whole tachlis of my existence is energetically one of working on excavating the good in life. You know, the good in myself, the good in others, the good in life circumstances. You know, and I'm bringing all those good, all those Likutey tovos, and I'm, so to speak, carrying them on my shoulder, making a beautiful talis, so to speak. That's what we're going for.
This parsha is Tazri Mitzorah, and I heard Rabbi Lazar, I heard him say today that Tzaras, he says a nega. It's like a plague, right?
Yeah.
So, but also, there's oneg shares the same letter
Exactly.
as nega. The difference is where is the ayin?
Exactly.
Is
Wow.
If your ayin's in the beginning, if you have a good eye, if you work to have a good eye from the start, you're gonna have oneg, you're gonna have pleasure.
Wow.
But if a good eye is the last thing on your mind, then you're gonna have nega.
Right. That's exactly the Nakuda. So much. It's like mind-boggling how true this is. So much of our suffering is not because of things outside of us. It's because of how we think about things on the inside. Now, it's a delicate point because, especially in the space that I work in, I meet people that are gone through horrifying things. The things that would make you shudder. It's a delicate point. When I do a nursing group, I always, or what I tend to do in one of the groups at least, is to reference Viktor Frankl. Because when Viktor Frankl, who wrote Man's Search for Meaning, and he's talking about the power of choice, and he's saying that from the belly of Auschwitz, we take him seriously. Because he was at the apex of the highest level of suffering. And yet he is whispering to us, you still can choose how you look at it. You can still choose how you can respond to it. In between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space is your power to choose. Maybe he's even grabbing us by the lapels and saying, obviously it's also delicate because when we talk about addiction or substance abuse, it's multifaceted. It's neurobiology and physiology and trauma and culture and nurture and nature, all these things that influence why a person might succumb to whatever impulse that they are, whatever craving that they are contending with. But I'd like to machzik the person in realizing that they can be in the driver's seat, right? And the quality of our life, the quality of our consciousness, that we can have a say in. What happens outside of me, I don't have so much say in that. But that's,
Yeah.
that's the idea. So that Shem should help us realize that katnus is a part of avoda, not to pathologize katnus.
It's the main part of the avodah.
Right. That's where we spend so much of our time, So imagine when you can change your perspective of the katnus so that it's actually a meaningful part of the avoda as opposed to I'm just nebach because I'm so not nebach. This is l'chachila, that katnus is part and parcel.
That's where men are made.
That's where men are made, in the grind, so to speak, right?
Yeah.
That's where B'nai Aliyah, B'nai Torah, and Bali Avoda, and B'nai Das are forged in the crucible of, the day-to-day. With Hashem, we should have an ayin tov and dress ourselves with beautiful garments and the Likutey tovos, and to be aware of what energy we're bringing to the table, and to realize that we have the power to bring incredible healing to anyone we encounter through who we are. Baruch Hashem.